This is WGRG 100.5 FM, where we meet the absolute minimum FCC broadcasting standards. It's time to hang on and brace yourself for a community radio program that's frankly indescribable. Let's talk Geneseo. Two guys with nothing better to do on a Friday morning but to talk about our community. Geneseo City Administrator Brandon Meglin and City Alderman Keith Kennett. And yeah, nobody, and I mean nobody, puts the blah in blah, blah, blah like these guys do.
And good Friday morning, and welcome to this week's edition of Let's Talk Geneseo. I'm Thing 1, Alderman Keith Kennett. Thing 2, City Administrator Brandon Meglin, the other side of our broadcast studio table counter door thing I made.
I've been called a lot of things, Keith, but never Thing 2.
Thing 1, Thing 2. We should get shirts like that.
Yeah?
Well, probably not.
Again, not in the budget.
Yes, that is true. While I'm thinking of it, though, and this has really not pre-planned, but I believe March 14th is when they do the dunk thing.
The polar plunge. Yeah, I saw the signs coming into the high school here. They're all over the place now.
Yes, and that's a fundraiser and just a fun event and what have you. But do we want to try and incorporate that into the program?
Are you saying do the polar plunge?
No, I'm not saying
broadcast from the track.
I'm saying broadcast from the track because at least I would have the excuse of electronic equipment and water wouldn't mix.
Sure.
So that's how I could get out of actually doing the polar plunge. But, you know, if you felt like you would like to do it, I wouldn't want to take that opportunity away from you.
We'll let the police officers do it like usual.
They're probably better trained. But, all right, well, I say we can do our program. Maybe I'll kind of get stuff in place to where we could then remotely go outside and do some play-by-play or something for the...
I think that would be fun. We can do some pre-interviews before they hit the water and then how they feel when they come out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So mark your calendars. The 14th of March. We will be on the road about 200 feet from our
Are we going to have
studio.
to adjust the time that day? I don't know.
Well, we could have a guest.
Okay.
It starts at 8.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be 5 after 8 probably.
All right.
Before anything gets going. So we could have a guest come in. Maybe one of the participants could come in. We could interview them. And then
We could probably do a couple.
he probably could. Yeah.
Great.
So anyway, mark your calendars for that. But today, this program is even more exciting than the anticipation that everyone's feeling for the polar plunge. And we have a very special guest in with us this morning. And I'll turn it over to Brandon, maybe do some introductions. We're going to have a nice conversation with a familiar voice and name to many of you.
Yeah. This morning we welcome Melanie Rice from the Geneseo Historical Museum in with us to talk about her transition to the museum and all the things going on there. As we touched on the last broadcast, you know, we had a nice recognition of Angie Snook. The mayor declared February 14th, Valentine's Day, Angie Snook Appreciation Day in Geneseo, and was able to get her a nice plaque and recognition. She gave some nice remarks in a city council meeting about a month ago now. So that was great. But as Angie hands over the reins, I guess, to Melanie as the curator at the museum, we welcome her. And so welcome, Melanie.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we usually like to start here by, if you could give us just a little bit of your background and what led you down the path to the museum.
Okay. Well, I moved here in 1991. And I was a school social worker in our school district. That's why I came here to Geneseo. I just retired in May of 2024 after 33 years of service to our district and our community. But during that early time in the 90s, Keith put together a program called JCTV, and we were on air once a month, I think.
Yeah, way more than this.
Yeah, exactly. Doing just different tidbits about the community. And so I was scheduled and assigned to the museum. And so I would do a monthly tidbit on the museum with Angie Snook, and it was definitely an interest of mine. I am one of 3 girls at my house, and my other 2 sisters are shoppers, and my dad and I would always find museums to go to while my sisters were shopping. So this was right up my alley. So then they asked me to be on the board. So I was on the board of directors at the museum for several months, or several years, I'm sorry, and I was the secretary for a while. When one of my 4 kids got into high school, I had to kind of step away. It was just too much. So I didn't want to do anything halfway, so I had to step back. And I was still involved in the museum by volunteering. In fact, my all 4 children volunteered at the museum at one point or another. And so 8 years before I was getting ready to retire, in fact, a board member called me and said, Angie would like to retire. We know this is something that you've always been interested in. Would you be interested in becoming the next director or curator? And I said, well, yes, but I have 8 years to go. I can't step away from, education, and I need to finish what I started. So they hired somebody, and then 2 years before I was to retire, I heard that she was going to also step away, and I then contacted that board member and said, if she can wait 2 years, I'm totally in for it. So they interviewed me, and the board decided that Angie decided that she could wait a couple of years, and so that I worked during the summers, and I was able to work during school breaks and do whatever I could to learn as much as I could. And then on June 1st of 2024, that's when my contract started, and here I am.
Nice.
So that's the story.
There you go. And many longtime residents and stuff are probably familiar with Melanie's work and stuff as it related, again, starting with JCTV, but really from that, nothing really planned, but there's, dozens and dozens or hundreds of segments that exist in the JCTV archives, but really gained quite a bit of knowledge, even just from all those interviews of Angie over time.
Correct.
And serving as a board member on the museum, certainly, it's a big challenge to, you don't really replace Angie,
no,
but we have to plan for a succession, if you will.
Correct.
And, and Angie just, as the recognition that we gave her last month, was such a part of not only the operations of the museum, but there was that transition when, in any organization, there's a step where you have the opportunity to take that next step. And sometimes that next step might be a baby step, and sometimes it might be a big one. Well, it was a big one for us in that the purchasing of the building that we're in now.
Correct.
Prior to that had been across the street in the original library building here in Geneseo, and that was a big ask, if you will, to do that, and being a board member shortly after that time, when that all took place, there is just a lot to it, but it has proven to be a wonderful decision, a wonderful choice. The museum has just grown in leaps and bounds from that point, and transitioning that though to somebody else also leaves some fairly big shoes to fill as well. And but certainly as a board member, we're very happy and pleased with Melanie. We feel we couldn't really find anybody that has many of the people skills and personality skills and likability and what have you that Angie has. Melanie certainly has in spades. Anybody that knows her knows that. But again, just the historic side and the interest in it and the passion for it. We think we found the right person for it. So we're excited, at the museum, and Melanie, I know you have some ideas and thoughts on maybe some things that you would like to maybe see happening at the museum above and beyond some of the things that we currently have done. And so not to, it's a really vague and leading setup question, but maybe share some of your thoughts insofar as things you think the museum are doing well now, but some ideas you have maybe for the future to make it even more, make it better.
Well, and
there's the word I'm looking for.
Well, let's see if I can understand your question.
Thank you, because I sure don't.
I know. I'm like, well, I think I'll be resurrecting some things that Angie has done in the past. So, and just after COVID, I know everyone goes back to that, but I mean, the state of Illinois shut every museum for 2 years. And so anything that was going on prior to that definitely stopped. And that was a big frustration, I know, for Angie, because she had led the community and surrounding communities to really understand the services and what the museum was all about. And that was very difficult. So we're resurrecting it was called History Roundtable, but we've renamed it as Moments That Made History. So we have a spring lecture series as well as a fall lecture series that will be coming up. We just had Women, Property Rights, and History. We had a historian come in and talk a little bit about how after women got married, they had no rights at all back in the day. And so she's a historian and works for Augustana College. She did a fabulous job. In March, we'll be talking about baseball, which is one of my loves. Opening day is right after that, and so we'll be talking about the baseball players that actually came from Geneseo and played in the major leagues. So that'll be really fun to listen to. Steve Kastorf is going to do that, and then we'll talk a little bit about light in April, which is always a nice time to talk about light because the time has changed and spring is coming, but we're going to talk about how electricity has morphed from kerosene candles to what it is today. So we have one of our board members that's definitely interested in that, and we have some things planned for the summer as well. We have a new website, so you can kind of check into that. That was live in November. It's geneseohistory.com. We have an active Facebook page that's hooked to our website that's a little bit different. So that's something that I do historical highlights once a week, usually on Fridays. So that's something that you can kind of check out. Plus, we'll be open for the art walk. And anytime the Chamber of Commerce has an activity, we will try to be open and do something to match kind of the hubbub downtown, because we are right downtown and we want to be as supportive and open as the Chamber is wonderfully planning all of these events throughout the summer. So we plan on piggybacking on all of those things.
Mm-hmm. To rewind a little bit before Keith's question into what's going on with the future, too. With everything going on with Angie and the recognition, I guess I've been surprised by how many people say, I've never even been inside of that building before. It's a neat building. But so I don't know if you could touch on a little bit, what are the standing exhibits or collections, or why should people come and check out beyond the series and the special events? And when can they come, and can they just show up? And
Yes.
I feel like maybe some people don't know how that works.
Well, it's 9,000 square feet of fun is what I say to every person that comes in the door, because people are super surprised about when they come in. We are open Tuesday through Friday from 10 to noon and 1 to 3. By appointments on Saturday. I've been in there on weekends if somebody asks, without any trouble, or if somebody asks for an evening, if they have a meeting. Those are things that they can call the museum about. We can get that set up. And honestly, we had an exhibit last summer that was wedding dresses, historical wedding dresses. We had 112 wedding dresses throughout the whole museum, and so we had a lot of foot traffic. But a lot of it was out of town, unless somebody had heard of this and had come to, then we had a lot of people toward the end of the summer that were actually people from Geneseo. And this summer, our goal is to have an exhibit with military uniforms. And so we have revamped the military room currently, and those are things that you're going to find in the museum that will be a little bit different this summer, that will have just different aspects of the military just to honor them this summer, from about Flag Day in June all the way to the end of August. So, and there are some standing exhibits that you will see just about every time, but in our education room, I'm trying to do mini exhibits every 6 weeks. So currently we have Abraham Lincoln all set up in our education room with things that you can touch. So a lot of times people say you can't touch things in the museum, but I try to put things in the education room that kids can touch, so they can touch books. If you really want to touch something and you're not supposed to, I can give you gloves. But most of the time, of course, you have your hands down to your side and you're supposed to walk around. But we are trying to do some different things and move things around. So if you've been to the museum, then when you come next time, it'll look different. So that's kind of the idea. And there are a lot of people from Geneseo that haven't been through the museum, which is really sad. And we have the hiding hole. I mean, we are on the Underground Railroad, the 1855 section of the house, which Angie has done a ton of research and a lot of programs. And yet people are like, that's great, but they ever actually been down to the basement to see the hiding hole, which is rich in history, and which is how Geneseo was founded in 1836 by abolitionists. They specifically came here for a reason, and this is what Geneseo is built on. And we have a whole building full of artifacts and history that people should know about.
And with the hiding hole, it is somewhat unique to have something like that. I don't want to use the cliche, history comes alive or what have you, but in a way it does. I mean, that's actually where you would hide.
That's exactly right.
And it puts things in perspective when you realize, well, how would you get in here? And then you
That's right.
you see everything that went into that, and recognizing though that this is just one of thousands.
Yes.
Of other locations that existed at the time and before the Civil War and what have you, and it's just that in and of itself, and putting together that history, going back when you purchased the home and what have you, and discovering that has just been just an added bonus and stuff too. But yeah, we're obviously Melanie and I are big fans of the museum, and think that if you haven't been through there, Brandon makes a good point, because there really is a lot to see, and a lot of things you really don't maybe know or appreciate Geneseo's place in some of these historical things that have taken place. So
correct.
So you have that, but also there is the carriage house, which is a newer addition to the museum. Museum had purchased some property behind the existing facility. Had a house on it that was, and Brandon, you would like this because it was a bit of urban renewal, that we had a house that kind of needed the bulldozer to come. And so the bulldozer did come one day, and through the sneezes and a lot of people were involved in creating the carriage house. And that now has served, though, as a facility to where we can display larger items, and that has maybe had a little bit of some ag equipment and different things out there, but that's also where we're leaning to and growing our Harold Newman exhibit is out there. So it's there's if you haven't been to the museum lately, sometimes that building gets overlooked a little bit, but even out there's a lot of history. So for a small town museum, it really does have a lot to offer.
And we've already had 2 school tours. I have another one in March and a couple other ones in May. So we have teachers that, especially 4th grade, the curriculum really does talk about the Civil War, Underground Railroad. That's just just very pointed right there during that curriculum. So we have a lot of 4th grade classes that come through, because after they talk about it, then they want to see it. So that's kind of fun. But we have a homeschool cooperative in the Quad Cities, and this is the 8th group that has come through since the fall that has found us on our website. And we have just finished up number 8 last week, a big group of kids and parents, like 30 that came through. So, yeah.
Now, to go back on what you said, so when the museum, when they purchased the new location, they didn't know about the hiding hole?
That is correct. I mean, there was urban legend that
Correct.
it had been a stop on the Underground Railroad, but it wasn't. I would say 10 years ago. When did we? Oh. It's been a little while ago, but no, it was well into after we had the ownership of the facility.
Right.
But no, we it isn't like we bought it and said, okay, hey, here's the hiding hole.
No.
But we discovered it just over time through doing different projects
And we have a timeline in a display case of when Geneseo was founded in 1836 all the way to when Angie has done all this research and digging on the Underground Railroad and our ties to the East and the Richards that are on the top 70 abolitionist list. If you go to the Underground Railroad Museum in Ohio, they're on the list. I mean, and there are people, so which is pretty cool.
And there even is in that, not to ramble on, but even there's some good, maybe in some future visit, Melanie. And and you thought we were kidding about having you come in every month.
You are kidding, because she might not be.
Good point. But maybe at some future episode, though, too. There's beyond the Underground Railroad. There just are some good stories in Geneseo's history that probably many aren't aware of, because I know I wasn't aware of some of them, to where even we really kind of on the leading edge of civil rights and that sort of thing.
Correct.
Before it became vogue to be on the edge of civil rights. It was just even back then, something about Geneseo to where, we're going to do the right thing.
Right.
And what have you. So anyway, so go to the museum, because there's a lot of cool stuff, and this is just kind of one aspect of it. And on the Underground Railroad, you can go down to that hiding hole, and there's newspaper articles and what have you. But you could probably spend 20 minutes and really get an education on everybody knows about it, but here's what it actually was.
Correct.
Here's what it consisted of. Here's the practical aspects of what it was. And then also the risk that the property owners took in
That's
doing
exactly
this.
right.
I mean, these people were putting it out on the line.
They were.
Because it would not have been good
No.
for them had they been discovered,
No.
let alone the slaves trying to escape.
That's right. So we tried to put that in perspective when especially students come and just really help them understand. I mean, they didn't have flashlights. They weren't texting each other about where they were going to be. You are leaving the South and you are by candlelight. You're doing it at night. You probably don't have shoes on. You're trusting people that you don't know. And the people that you left, I mean, you're trying to get to the line at the north, but it was still legal, before the Civil War. So you still weren't trusting everyone. So, and just the risk they took.
Yeah.
So
Literally trusting your life to a complete stranger.
that's right. That
And-
was
Yeah.
probably white.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So
So anyway.
yeah.
But with that, though, too, Melanie, I know there's been some talk. I know the board's been kind of looking at some of these things, but maybe some, I know there's nothing definitely in place, but maybe share a few thoughts on maybe some educational outreach things that we're maybe thinking about trying to be more youth-focused to maybe draw additional interest to the museum.
Well, and we certainly, our board just had a strategic planning meeting last Thursday that was facilitated, and that was very helpful, but we're working on another 3-year plan so we can kind of facilitate some of those growth opportunities. But we're really looking at going into classrooms, most definitely bringing artifacts from the museum to classrooms to kind of talk to teachers, et cetera. We have a lot of interactive kinds of activities. This past group, we had a group make Tussie Mussies, which was, I mean, really back in the day, that was the deodorant. You carried it around. Everyone smelled the same by Friday. Not very nice. And
So you didn't notice.
because you had your bath on Saturday, right? But you either wore flowers or carried flowers because that was much nicer to smell than the people around you, or yourself smelled a little better because there are lots of layers as women would wear. And so during those summer months, if you think about that and you're only changing your clothes maybe a couple times a week and you're not really taking a bath or shower, I mean, by Friday, everyone's kind of smelling gaggy. So, so we had the students make Mussy Tussies and explain the history of that. Some of the boys, of course, in the group were like, once a week, a bath? You've got to be kidding. That'd be like heaven. So it's so funny. I know.
I want to go back.
I know. They thought that was great. And then the week before, we actually had someone come in and kind of talk about sewing and how you sewed all your clothes. And so they actually got to practice some sewing and what that was maybe like, or that you went and bought fabric. You didn't buy clothes, and then you actually sewed your clothes, and it was in a trunk or an armoire. We have so many clothes compared to what they had. So they had collars. They changed the look by doing different things. So we kind of talked about that. We're going to have someone do calligraphy because that's how they wrote. So we're going to try to do some interactive kinds of activities each time a school group comes, to make sure that they can kind of feel what that might look like and leave with something, not just get a tour. So we're excited about that.
Well, and one thing, and I know we're kind of getting at the time here to wrap it up, and at some point too, Melanie, and we're not going to do it every month, but we would hope you would consider, coming back at other times here
Maybe
in the future
quarterly.
to share. There you go. We'll take that.
Okay.
Brandon and I score that as a win.
Okay.
But maybe speak a little bit though about how about the museum and just how does it function, financially. How can the community be supportive of the museum and those sorts of things? I guess I will speak, in that there can be a perception out there that somehow there is some sort of public funding associated with the city, or with the museum, that the city or
No.
the state or somebody is funding it. But no, it is
No.
entirely funded how?
Donations. Totally donations. And we have a Friends of the Museum group. I have 38 people on my list that I send emails to. So if you're interested in getting involved in the museum or volunteering in some way, we have everything from people mowing and picking weeds to helping with school tours to helping put out exhibits or cleaning or just kind of looking through artifacts and helping with that. So we have a really nice volunteer group, and those people are doing it just because they're interested in history. And we have a donation box in the front, and that's kind of how we live. So we write grants, and we actually have donations, and people by the end of the year sometimes say, oh, I want to give some money to the museum. And so December is a really great month for us to get some donations. But that's kind of how we survive. So,
And we've been very fortunate too.
we have been.
When there has.
This community has been extremely generous. There's no other place that I can understand that would support a place like this just because they can. So,
Absolutely.
and they want to.
And even when there's the bigger projects and stuff too, there's Geneseo Foundation,
Yes.
the usual suspects
Correct.
are always there to support and
Yep.
help. And the museum in many ways, even beyond exhibits, so well tells the story and reflects the overall community of
That is
Geneseo.
correct. Very much so.
Okay, well, that wasn't so bad.
No.
You made it through the interview.
Not so sweaty. I didn't need a tussy mussy.
And as I joke, you'll get your "I Survived the Radio Program" T-shirt
Okay.
on the way out.
All
But
right.
we do appreciate you coming
Thank
in,
you.
Melanie, and welcome aboard. And look forward to a lot of exciting new things that will be happening at the museum.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Well, Brandon, city-wise, I'm trying to think. We had our committee of the whole meeting last night, or Tuesday night.
Yep, Tuesday.
But trying to think of anything really too new and exciting to pass
Well,
along.
One exciting development for TV50 and the museum in some ways is the camera project.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if we want to talk about that yet, but
Yeah, well, maybe we'll talk about that at a future date. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that I haven't been able to talk to James, so I'm pretty sure that we have everything all in place for that. Yeah, but we are, Brandon's referencing maybe some new things that could be a little bit of improvement and stuff for the community as well. And it also would be another example of a lot of entities working together to come up with a creative idea to make a nice little improvement for the community.
might have a new shot on Channel 50 soon.
That's right.
Camera comes off the roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder
Just
if
saying.
Yeah.
wonder if anybody's noticed the white brick with the zip ties.
Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
Every day.
What orbs up, we'll go and
Okay.
get that moved.
It's all good.
But anyway, but other than that, I think pretty much fairly.
Yeah, got some projects coming up. It's that time of year when things will kick back in on North State Street. So we'll be announcing that soon, but probably in March, construction will start back up on the North State infrastructure project. So be looking for that.
Yeah, and when that phase does start, how far does that one go? Maybe quick review the next phase of State Street.
Yeah, so phase one is we'll go all the way up to Wells Street. So that's the piece that we're going to be finishing up this year. And then we're in planning for phase two, which extends all the way up here to the high school on Ogden. So Wells to Ogden, that'll be phase two of the project. We're in financial talks on that one right now about starting that in 2026. So we should see the project continue on all the way up to the high school, and that's the full underground replacement, water, sanitary, storm, new street, sidewalk, the decorative downtown acorn lights extending all the way down to the high school here from the downtown area. So big project.
Yep, big project, but much needed. I mean, it's nice having the wider road and the visual improvements, but as we've referenced before, it's there's some very old water and sewer lines and just old stuff under there that need to be updated.
We like the historic stuff in the museum, but when it is underground and our water is flowing through it
Yeah.
and it's over 100 years old, it's not so nice.
No.
Yes, that is a good point. So
We can donate the pipe to you if you'd like to
I-
display it.
and we
I
just
don't think we have room.
and we just save
I'm just saying.
$50,000 in disposing of it. So it's a win-win.
Right.
I don't think so.
We'll put it on the lawn.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that, then we'll probably be wrapping up the program for this morning. But Melanie, again,
Thank
you.
you.
Brandon, always a pleasure. Mark your calendars for March 14th. We'll have some sort of remote out at the Polar Plunge, and I don't know. Maybe I think we could give Brandon. That might be
We'll see.
something to think about. We don't want to make any commitments there, but maybe we've never really have received an email or anything with anyone making a comment or asking a question. I know we get caught at, if it's after church or we're out and about or what have you, people will ask us questions, but maybe you could send an email to Brandon, and Brandon, your email address is?
It is bmeglin at cityofgeneseo.com, BMAEGLIN at cityofgeneseo.com.
And this could be and you'll like this, Brandon. This could be a Let's Talk Geneseo challenge. But maybe if enough people email,
Yeah.
saying
How many?
that, well, we won't commit to a number in case you want a point to back out of it. But I would say that if we had a significant number of people that said, yeah, we would like to see Brandon participate in the Polar Plunge and maybe throw in a little bit of a donation for the cause. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, what if they say Keith and not Brandon?
Well, I'm responsible for the technical stuff.
Yeah.
So see, that's how I protect
I'm a quick learner.
No, see, that's my out. I don't want to give that one away. But you wouldn't want to see me in the I won't say never say never. Okay. So if there's somebody willing to make maybe a really significant donation, there is a
Sure.
possibility that could happen. But
Yeah.
the keyword significant would have to be
I would
it.
totally hold your headphones.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Melody. Thank you for taking
That
away
way,
another
hold
little
my
part
purse,
of my out.
Hold my headphones, right.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. We have a couple of weeks to think about that. But we do appreciate you tuning in and listening. We remind everybody, too, that Justin will be here in just a little bit after the program with the weather update. But this has been this has been Let's Talk Geneseo on WGRG 100.5 FM in Geneseo. And have a great weekend.
Like these guys do. 100.5 FM in Geneseo. A broad